Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking this time to do this interview with me. I just want to ask you some questions about your journey as a nurse and becoming a nurse educator and kind of what inspired that. So, just getting started, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Carla Bishop. I went to school at Baptist School of Nursing Northwest in Springdale, Arkansas. I did, and that was a diploma program before it turned into an associate. And then I started working at Washington Regional I graduated in 1996, started working at Washington Regional in 1997. From there, I went med surge. I did what everybody told me I was supposed to do, and I went to med surge, which was great. I promised my boss that I would stay for 2 years because I was wishy-washy about it, and I stayed for 8. Then I worked what we called the registry, which is like the float pool kind of. And at that time, we could pick where we wanted to work. So I do a little med surge. In the summer, I did women's. I did a little ER, little triage, and then we had to pick a home. So I picked ER triage, and so I worked in the ER. And then I started moonlighting as a clinical instructor for an LPN program at Northwest Technical Institute in Springdale. So I had 2 jobs for a while. Well, actually, quite a while. And then they had a full-time position. So I took the $10,000 pay cut and took the job and still moonlighted in regional. And I did that for 11 and a half years. For the last 7.5, I was the director of the LPN program. And during that time, we had 5 years consecutive 100% pass rate. Woo-wee.
Wow.
And then in 2016, I got the opportunity to come to back to Washington Regional and start the residency program, the Vizient residency program with Sam Bowman. And that was really fun. I've been very lucky to have fun things. But so we did that for a couple years, and then someone else took that over. And then I did some online teaching. My mother passed away about 5.5 years ago, so moved back to live with my dad, and now I'm back here and working with some high school students and things like that.
Okay. Well, and welcome back. We're actually really glad to have you back. I
Well,
enjoy
thank you,
working with
thank you.
you.
And I wrote, I developed the competency program that regional uses. So I've been on a lot of little projects, writing curriculum and things like that.
So the clinical instructor, is that kind of what inspired you to really want to go into education, do you think, or was it
Well,
something else?
I don't know if I never had the desire to be a teacher, for grade school or high school or anything like that. But this is my second career. I was a hairdresser for, years before, and I actually taught hairdressing. So I think I'm a kind of a vocational teacher at heart. Um, at NTI, one year I taught this whole class, AMP, Fundamentals 1 and 2, and Med Surg 1, 2, and 3.
Wow.
And so I did, you know, there wasn't anybody else, and I had already done the anyway. So I really do like to teach. I like to find ways to make people understand, make it easy. That's why I like the LPN program because, I'm not going to be talking about the Krebs cycle, but I can talk about how the kidneys work and things like that in pertaining to nursing.
Mm.
So I don't know, maybe it was there all along. I don't know. I've always been kind of a bossy little person, so maybe that's it.
Do you think that you have any skills just from your clinical background that help you in being an educator?
I think I have a really good understanding of the hospital from top to bottom now. I've been at this for a while. Sometimes we can be kind of siloed. You know your department, but you don't know all the other departments. So I am glad I came back to regional for that. I think it gives me some insight when people, go like, "Hey, why are we doing that?" Well, it's because of this. And I think that I generally, if I like what I'm doing, it's fun for me to teach. I really, and these last 5.5 years, I have taught online, but not in the classroom. So, I mean, I'm not sure where this road is going to take me this time. I'm hoping it's back in the classroom, but we'll see.
What does a typical day look like for you?
Now I am working on some programs. I'm working on a summer camp for high schoolers. We used to do the MASH program, and we're getting away from that and doing our own. So I'm kind of pumped because you know me, there's always a scheme. And so I want to get to schools, and I want to do like a Hunger Games, only the care games. So they'll go to maintenance, they'll go to nursing, they'll go to diet, they'll go everywhere. And then at the end, there'll be like a disaster, and they have to, budgeting, and they have to put a plan together.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited about that. I've always
Are
liked, I've done the MASH clinical part for the last, I don't know, 4 years. And I enjoy watching people learn and to hear about their experiences.
um So I know over in the education department, everybody kind of pitches in to do a lot of the same things. That way, if somebody's busy, they always have
Mhm.
somebody who can step in. So how do you manage that is there a lot of teamwork that happens, and how are you managing between everybody in all the disciplines?
I think there's a lot of teamwork. I am not used to it because I've been remote. And I'm part of it, but it's not the expectations aren't that much for me. But yeah, I think we have really good teamwork. There's some young educators that have taught me like how to use forms and some other stuff, and then I've taught them. They'll come to me and go, "Hey, what do you think about this?" So we have a lot of collaboration as far as ideas. And if I get an article or I go to a seminar, I share that with the team. So, and then we'll see what happens here. So I'm hoping I'll get an opportunity to teach. And in our department, we do have clinical educators, and they are providing clinical education to a couple of local schools who had issues with faculty. So I don't know if I'll do that again. I'm not really, I'm not really sure. We'll see. That's the adventurous part.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll be creating things. I think it's going to be like a career coach. So I'll get a hold of people and like put them in departments that maybe they could go work sterile processing and, work their way up. So
Okay.
we're really looking for that pipeline.
Mhm. What would you say your communication style is?
Um, Direct. Um, I direct, blunt. I don't think I'm intimidating, and I try not to hurt people's feelings, but I'm pretty direct. I mean, I've learned that over the years. You can sugarcoat something, but it's just easier to say it in a tactful way. I teach a preceptor class, and I say being truthful is kind. It is kind to let someone know that they need improvement on something. I know it's hard, to step on people's toes. And so I would say I'm direct. I mean, people laugh. I think I'm funny. Um, but it's getting hard because, I'm getting older and nobody knows who I know. You know what I mean? I was like, "Oh my God, Robert Duvall died." And they're like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Why am I working here with you young people?" But I think direct. In my classroom, I kind of demand attention. I move around, I sit in front of them, I ask questions to make sure you've been in class with me. And I like them to do part of the talking because
Mm-hmm.
if it's just me talking all the time, I think we really learn from each other. And so it's pretty open. I'm pretty tolerant until I'm not. And then, but I will have to tell you, it messes me up when people are talking in front of me. So I do have to go, hey, if I'm talking, you're not. Okay. So,
I think I definitely see you have a lot of command in the classroom, but you do invite people to engage. I know just starting out with the nurse residency and everything, I think you did a really good job at keeping people's attention and keeping them involved in the conversation. And you helped them. I think they felt more comfortable with you because you did invite them to speak first. You were really good at icebreakers and things like that. And so I think that those things made you really effective in that
well,
situation.
and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I loved hearing people talk about being a new nurse because if there would have been an aerial view of me when I was first a nurse for the first 7 months, it was just running all over the place. It took me like 7 months to get organized where I could even have a night. I mean, I'd go on the way to work, go, I'm gonna get it today. I'm gonna get it today. And it took a long time. So I I think people are hard on themselves when they first start. And there's a certain competitiveness. So I want everybody to be cool, but I don't want to lose control of my classroom either.
Mhm.
So, and I taught at NTI for years, and so that is helpful too. Because we had a class of like 52 students. But yeah, I like to speak freely. I like when people know that if they talk to me about something, I'm going to tell them the truth. And so I'm okay with that.
Um, with education, what is important to you? Like, what do you think makes a good educator and what keeps you motivated to educate?
I think a good educator, and I people have told me this is wrong, but first of all, I think you have to care. I mean, you have to care more than just clocking in and clocking out. And some people aren't into it. I'm amazed that, I mean, we even have people, I've heard, well, people in our department that go, I just really don't like to teach. I go, we are employee education, right? So yeah, I think you have to care. I think what makes a good educator is staying on top, not necessarily of learning, but different styles or being open to hear what people have said. So many things. I feel like one time I went to work with a group of students and they started doing heart casts by a radial approach. So when the student said, "Oh, it's in her wrist," I go, "No, it isn't." I mean, you silly student. I mean, so you do get to see things progress. So not necessarily that kind of stuff, but being open. A lot of times I feel like in nursing, they just want to vent, you know, or, answer a light or something like that, but be visible
Hmm.
as much as possible. Um, and be real. And it's kind of hard because being real and then also being supportive of your leadership team is really kind of a juggle.
Hmm.
When I taught in the classroom, I mean, we had bosses, but that is the single hardest thing as an educator for me because I may not agree with the leadership team.
Hmm.
And me, a lot of times I don't. But you still have to represent your brand. And, so finding that happy medium with letting people vent versus
Kind of
trash.
managing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
hate that phrase. I hate it so much. I do. Um, I don't know why it just bugs me. But so yeah, that would be the most difficult part. Um, and I truly believe that no matter what you do, especially in nursing, it can be fun. It can be fun, and we are allowed to have a good time at work just like everybody else. So sometimes when you're in the trenches, a good laugh or, is helpful. So I may not be the technical, like I can't tell you how to do the DKA protocol.
Hmm.
I can't even tell you how to do the heparin protocol anymore. But um, teaching has always taught me a whole lot more than I was teaching, and I feel like you know that too, that when you get ready to teach and you break it down and you think how you're going to present it, if you know it. Another thing, Albert Einstein, I think it's him, he said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. So a lot of times I'll hear educate, well, they're just so smart, I couldn't understand it. Well, then they're not doing their job.
Hmm.
So those things have shaped how I teach, little examples. Um, I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling, but really I do my directness and you have to care. Um, that's 80% of it.
So you've been a nurse a lot longer than me and been in
30
education.
years this
And
year.
wow,
I
that's
know,
crazy.
it's crazy.
So you've seen a lot more change than I've seen. I mean, here at this facility, we've went through COVID, we've went through changing to the Nihon coding monitors, and we just changed to Epic, and we went to Paycom from our clocking and education system. So all of those are, I think, big changes. But you've seen a lot of other changes throughout the years, and so how do you adapt to that? How do you manage the changes and just kind of go with it?
Well, you just said the word manage up, and the catchphrase is, it used to be a nosocomial infection, now it's hospital acquired. So some of that lingo, well, we're gonna
It was
circle around.
nosocomial for me too.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, what are we changing the name for? Was it too hard to pronounce? So I feel my age in that way. I don't think I'm stuck in my ways. Um, I worry about healthcare, but I also think trying to answer your question and give my opinion at the same time, which I'd rather give my opinion. I think we're gonna see some changes. I think that the hospitals are in financial trouble nationwide, not just us, every one of them. And I think we're gonna see more volunteers. I think we're gonna lower the age of our um entrance. I think and I would love to be a part of making a really robust volunteer where we're not paying everybody. Quite honestly, I mean, there's a lot of people. This is an area where tons of people retire at 65. I mean,
Hmm.
we could really have something. I think we'll get out of it, but it's going to be rough. I think they're going to make more cuts everywhere. I'm seeing on the news that they're cutting service lines and closing hospitals, and that's nationwide. But at the end of the day, we're nurses and they need us. And I do feel like some of our technology has confused our patients. I think that our technology makes us check a box instead of an assessment, but that's the way it is. And um, I think you just have to be. I think we all learn this in nursing school. You just have to be flexible, you know, and see what changes come. Some are going to be good, some are not. A lot of hospitals have a failure to launch. We start something and then we don't finish it. So I'm hoping that we can, pool our resources. I think it's harder for us because we're a community owned that we don't have, a system sometimes.
Hmm.
But as far as the change and things going, me, I like change. I mean, I like change just to change. And so, um, I look at it as an opportunity. Sam and I always talk about this when we were talking about COVID. Never let a good crisis go to waste. There's always an opportunity to make the changes based on what's going on. So that's how I manage to ride with the changes. What else can we do here? What can we do?
Yeah.
And instead of, freaking out about the change. That's just me. And I find that better. It makes me less crazy. We could all use a little less crazy.
So with all of that, and you do a lot, you wear a lot of hats. Because I know that we just kind of, okay, you're on this assignment now, you're on this
Mhm.
assignment now. How do you manage your time?
Well, sometimes I find it really frustrating because I have, we've worked together side by side, and when I'm excited about something, I can get it done. Boom.
Hmm.
The waiting on other people's approval just makes me want to lose my mind. So at home, when I was working remotely, I could, have a reaction to it. So I'm really going to have to watch that. There's always changes. And but I like to jump from one thing to the other. I like three, four pieces of paper in front of me, and then I have a deadline. Oh, I got to work on this, and then okay, I did that. So now, I've been kind of spoiled though, working remotely because I've only had one or two jobs. So,
Okay. Well,
but I am looking forward to. I like it. Me, I'm kind of a social person, so I like being back in the thick. And my hospital is my favorite place. I mean, other than home.
well, we are just about out of time. Is there any advice you would give to another aspiring educator?
I mean, I would have to say to be open and creative. I think that a lot of people do the same thing over and over. Try to get away from the PowerPoints, try to get them up moving. Um, and the other thing is this. I think instead of accepting what we have, I think as educators, it's our job to raise our expectations
Mhm.
and have people meet them. I have found over the years that people love to be challenged. They really do. And I think we should hold them to a standard. I mean, right now, people are going wherever the money is, as far as, nurses, some of them. I think we should reward our nurses who have been here. I think we should, um, now I lost track of the exact question, I'm a rambler. Um,
Just
but I would
advice to,
say, I would say always be willing to change. Instead of looking at it as a crisis and a disaster, look at it as an opportunity. What could we do different? What could we do quicker? What could we do better?
okay.
So if you always look through your job in those lenses, you're going to be great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I appreciate your time.
Well, it's good to see you again,
Good to
Jessica.
see
Always a
you.
good time with you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.